Welcome to the Mrs. Paintbrush. Today we're going to talk about painting up an Abhorrent Ghoul King on a Royal Terrorgheist. Hello and welcome back. All right, so here we have measuring up the base. Now, I do not like these jutting rocks that come out for the Royal Terrorgheist. So I'm taking a caliper here. I'm measuring the distance there, locking that in for each one of the levels of the feet falling onto the base. And I took this custom base scenery from Cemetery. I got it from Reaper Miniatures. I was part of their 4 Kickstarter, and it had like cemetery stuff in there. And I'm like, yeah, I'm all about chopping that sucker up, and chopping it up I do. There it is, chopping this up. So we're doing a Royal Terrorgheist and a Abhorrent Ghoul King on top of it. I'll tell you, Royal Terrorgheists are, well, this model actually terrified me when I first started 3 years ago this channel. I had bought this box, but I have not built it until today, being that I never felt worthy enough to actually do this model. But now I'm taking the bull by the horns and I'm actually gonna go for it. All right, so we're gonna file this up and get it nice in, and gotta get the files in there and just make it really smooth. But you can see there that there's like a big old gaping hole right there. Now that's going to be an issue later, so we're gonna have to fill that up with a little something. So I got these bricks from Pegasus Hobbies, and what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put the bricks all on up and around this area. I'm gonna start filling that in. That's right, this is a Royal Terrorgheist. You know, it's a nightmarish being born of the oldest Shaishan sorceries. Terrorgheist are undead monsters, bound to the will of their Abhorrent Ghoul King. Crazy stuff over here. All right, so we're getting all them bricks in. I just wanted to fast forward to these bricks. I want to get the sense of them falling and crumbling like this Terrorgheist is ripping-ish up in my base, yo. All right, anyway, black STYNYLREZ primer. I'm going to do this thing that if I mention a color, I'm only going to post it once. You're going to see the words on the bottom actually come out, but you're only going to see it once. This way I don't have to keep on writing the same things over and over and over and over again. I'll say them, but I'm not going to repeat writing them. It actually saves time in editing, and well, you know, it's kind of repetitive and I don't want to do that. Okay, so I'm going to start really black bombing everything that is in here. I'm going to really just primer everything up, just prepping it up for paint. You can see the sub-assemblies right there, getting ready for that paint. All right, so next up, MEPHISTON Red is the base, and I'm going to hit the MEPHISTON Red onto the wings right there. All right, so at some point, Terrorgheists were proud creatures, but you know, they were flesh and blood, but now they're heaving carcasses, rotting muscles, cracked bone with vampiric thirst equal to that of their masters. They are relentless. They soar over the throngs of combat with their otherworldly senses, seeking great foes to slay. I mean, they are lurking like carrion, like no joke. Perfect fit for this army. All right, so next up, some Evil Sunz SCARLET for the highlight. You may want to throw some ink in there. Man, all the colors that I'm using are suggestions. You can use your own colors if you wished to. You don't have to stay tuned. I'm just letting you know what I use personally for these builds. Alrighty, so the foul creatures strengthen the visibility as they wolf down their prey. Their ragged flesh regenerate and wounds disappearing to the dismay of their enemies. Terrorgheist fangs are far from the deadliest weapon. The beast's scream is unmistakable and devastating. You want to watch that Terrorgheist scream. All right, so BONEWHITE is next. I'm using Silly Putty to mask off the rest of the, I call it the Undead Seahorse. And I'm just going to do layer upon BONEWHITE there from VALLEJO Game Air. All right, the high-pitched wail of that scream cuts across the battlefield, shattering the minds of nearby prey, and those are not slain outright are reduced to gibbering wrecks, howling as the blood runs free from their ears and their eyes. Can you picture that? Worst horror movie ever. There's that trope right there. Something about bleeding, crying blood. I don't know. Freaks me out. All right. I wouldn't want to cry blood. Hey, what you doing today? Well, I'm crying blood. All right, there you go. So MEPHISTON Red, just got to airbrush some of the pieces that are inside the undead seahorse right there, which is the frame of it. That's what I've been calling it. I'll tell you, these things are devastating on the battlefield. With an aborting Ghoul King on top of a Royal Terrorgheist, there's something to behold right there. There's a lot of different abilities too. You got that Death Shriek going on, right? And you know that shriek, like I just mentioned, and it's horrific. All right, get in there. Some more MEPHISTON red, just doing the blood bits on the muscles right there. All right, yeah. So that shriek, it is no joke, right there. Gaping maw. You gotta watch out, man. 6 mortal wounds is no joke on the battlefield, right? You got infested, got royal blood in the hero phase. They can do D3 wounds allocated to this model. They can heal that up, so they're healing as well. You know, it's just really, really, really something else. 3 inches within this model suffers mortal wounds with infested. There's just so many things going on with this thing. It's a really cool model. And the command abilities to summon the Royal Guard. All right, so doing some BONEWHITE as well. All right, so an interesting thing about building this model, for some reason, the way I put it together, one of the wings actually stood straight up. I don't know if it's something else, but I know the model on the box doesn't have it like that, but it's very weird how the arms are actually positioned on this. For some reason, it just wants to, you know, it looks kind of weird in a little way. And for some reason also, like when I look at the picture, the actual face is leaning one way. And for some reason, when I put it together, the face doesn't tilt. Maybe I'm doing something wrong. Let me know if you build a Royal Terrorgheist and you tilted the head or something like that, because mine did not tilt in the way that the picture on the box is tilted, which is weird. All right, so BONEWHITE again, just getting into the edges of the wing. Again, painting it on my hand. When I did the zombie dragon, I actually did it with airbrush, and it was murder. It was 8 hours of masking, and it didn't even come out that great. And then I had to touch it up with the brush anyway. So this way, I just went straight with the brush here to get that in. And I do go all the way up with these things. You didn't have to with this design. For some reason, I just felt like this would be great practice for me. So I actually, you know, practiced, and everything is deliberate practice. When I do a model, I try to deliberately practice one thing. Now, with this is brush control. I wanted to be able to do really thin lines with white, very, very high stakes here, and learning how to breathe and paint at the same time. It was kind of easy because, I mean, I can always go with black and tighten up the edges right there. Speaking of black, all right, so I did all in white. So if you wanted to do them white, that's about as simple as it is, but I do want to add a variation to it so it can match my army and look like the zombie dragon that I also built. If you haven't seen that build, also have it. Check the playlist for the Flesh Eater Quartz that I've been doing. Now, this model right here is indicative of the last model for my Flesh Eater Quartz army, the new army for the new year. That's right. I got that goal complete, and I've been working on it since the beginning of the year. And here we go. Really awesome. Okay, so inspired by Venom, if you know Spider-Man lore right there, just wanted some of that black to like kind of creep up the bone. I thought it would be kind of cool to do. So putting little speckles in there, you can see how I'm doing that. And I'm going to go throughout the model where there's bone, so you have like black going into the bone. I thought it'd be kind of cool. Actually makes it easier to build as well because part of it is black and it's easy to paint black. All right, next up, some MEPHISTON red, and I'm going to do the inside of the mouth. I wanted the inside of the mouth to actually be red, so I'm just painting it while it's in halvesies, which is interesting for me. Usually I want to put these things together so this way I can take care of the gaps. So yeah, that was interesting doing the gaps. Actually, when I put the gaps in together, I actually put gloss varnish into the gaps and try to work with it like that, just to fill up the gaps and work with it like that. It's really tough to gap fill. There's a lot of different methodologies, and in fact, it's tough because there's so many different choices. You don't know which one you're going to actually make. Now I'm going to go with the Vallejo model color black, and I'm just going to go in there and just fill in these areas here, just to make sure that the black covers the areas where it needs to cover within the model. And it's much easier to paint the bone white and then to cover with black, because it's easier for me to paint black over white than painting white over black, because then I only have to do like one coat and, you know, once and done kind of deal. And that's what I'm doing. Just be careful, again, working with brush control here. All right, and I continue that right there. I started building the model. I started putting pieces onto the model as well. I'm going to put the rib cage as well and start putting all the pieces onto the model, onto the murder seahorse right there, or zombie seahorse that you have here. I keep on calling it the zombie seahorse because it sort of looked like a seahorse before I start putting all the things together and it start taking shape into a Terrorgheist. All right, as far as building this model was a little tricky because I had to change the entire base to fit what I wanted to in the aesthetic of my army, and that's why I enjoyed doing. All right, SERAPHIM Sepia is next. It's Citadel Shade, and as I'm painting with it, that means it takes a lot of layers in order to do that. Could I have used contrast paint? Probably. I don't know. I only have one contrast paint right now. I am actually trying to use up my paints before I buy new paint, so I'm just like, you know, I just don't want to buy paints to buy paints to buy paints to buy paints. I bought paints already and I want to kind of use them up, and I have a lot of paint. I have a ton of paint that I really want to get done and use up, so I'm not buying any new paint until I finish a lot of paint and make some room for me. Alrighty, so just painting up next. It was a totally fun build to put together the model and put together the wings and everything. It was pretty awesome. And again, they actually fit a little bit weird, a little bit odd here because, I don't know, it's just the way it put together, the way it fit together. They were just, one of the wings was shooting straight up. All right, clear Tamya red is next. You get to see that I'm like glopping it on there. I really wanted to glop it on, so I'm just going to get really close here so you can see me doing it. And you can see all that, you know, that venomous black going into the bones. I think that really came out pretty cool. All right, so yeah, you can use Blood for the Blood God on this one, but I used Tamya Red Clear because that's what I had, and I really like it, and it's been drying out, so it's actually kind of goopy. I don't know, like dry, like starting to congeal blood. As freaky as that is. I think it's going to become useful for me for different things throughout builds. You know, Nurgle or something like that might work. All right, so this I actually sped this up 1,000 times because fitting the actual pieces together, even though you measured it and measured it and measured it, is kind of tough. And no, there's absolutely nothing holding this thing together except for, you know, gravity. And I'm just trying to see where things fit right now and see where the hands fit and everything else. And that was kind of rough. It's kind of rough to do the base, the custom base like that. But I'm so glad that I did it because it really just fits the aesthetic of my army, having that cemetery base. I also did a video on cemetery bases. You can check that out as well. Onto that playlist. Okay, so yeah, definitely a lot of back and forth. Measure, 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 then glue, right? Again, putting bricks in at the end just to fill in some places within there. It's kind of rough. This is a big model and it's a lot fiddly, and it has like big old, the wings are spiky, so they get like stuck on things. So you got to be careful when transporting it and moving it around. White STYNYLREZ primer, and all I do is I like to draw out the footprint of where these base protrusions are coming out. So this way I know to model around this area right there. And all it takes is just, you know, painting out the footprint. And I'm using white primer on that black unprimed base right there because I want to put all the detritus, know where everything is, know what the layout is. The only thing is you don't know the height of this, so you kind of have to guess with that. But I guess you could put indications later, but getting the footprint definitely helps. All right, this is kind of going over the base, and I don't like things going over the base. I figure like where the base is, that's where the world ends. You know, like this little diorama world that I'm creating at the end of the base, that's where it ends. So I have to make sure that it ends there. So I'm going to clip over any overhangings that I have to make sure that it just fits within the little world that I am creating. I think it's so cool. Awesome. All right, so next up we have some green stuff, world. Green stuff, just throwing that on there, breaking pieces off. And I really do like to roll out bases. I mean, once I started that, started rolling out bases, it's like I can't stop. It's like Pringles or something. Like once I start, I can't stop. All right, so I'm going to try to roll these out. All right, one thing you have to be careful of in the middle, losing my mind just a little. In the middle, it doesn't really press roll as well as the top, so I have to go back, and I didn't like the way it was, so I kind of lifted it up to put some pressure underneath, and then like really started rolling out the brick that way. Interesting way to do it, but you know, hey, it kind of works. So there you go. And there it is, right there, and it does work. All right, so next up, I'm putting some AK Interactive's Terrorgheist Light Earth from the Diorama series. Now you can use wood putty for this. I like the grains of the Terrorgheist Light Earth personally, and since I bought this big old thing of it when I built my Night Titan, I figured I'm going to use it, so might as well use it up one way or the other. There we go. And it's sort of like decorating a cake, if you think about it. Again, using the guidelines, knowing where I can like model up to and where I can put detritus on the base, and just checking to see where it is and then fitting that on, gluing the pieces back on. So there we go. And I'm going to do that with all the pieces for the base, and I'm going to go around there. A lot of fun doing the cemetery bases. I'm going to do that with all my Death armies. So I guess my Nighthaunt armies are going to be similar throughout, and it's going to be a lot of fun to put those together. So yeah, now I'm trying to put in some road gravel. I actually use regular road gravel for this, and it is pretty cool to use. And you know, it's free, you know, so I literally go to the end of my driveway and get road gravel and put it on there. And there's different kind of variations of sizes in there. It's pretty cool, pretty awesome that I have an opportunity to get basic material and I don't have to pay any money for it. I mean, you know, that's always been an issue with a lot of people, that this hobby is expensive. So you cut corners wherever you possibly can, you know, really make life easier for yourself. All right, so next up, I'm going to hit that black STYNYLREZ primer, and I'm gonna just, you know, do several coats of a primer over here, not just nonchalantly. I guess I could have made this primer thicker. I kind of thinned it down a little bit. I think I go and actually add some more primer to it, and there you go. All right, next, Sombre Gray. I like to use a base coat of Sombre Gray. It's a really dark gray. It goes on really light, and especially contrasting with the black, but I try to hit all the bricks and just areas with that one at a time. It's all about airbrush control here, and it just takes time and practice to do that. One excellent practice is to actually roll out these flagstones on a base that you're not even going to use and try to hit all the bricks. There you go. And there's instant practice for you if you're trying to get better brush control on where to put paint down. All right. And how to feather in the trigger, so this way you're hitting it just nice and light. All right, Heavy Blue Gray is next. Vallejo Game Extra Opaque, and this is, I feel, the perfect kind of highlight to that somber gray. And I'm just trying to get one edge of each flagstone, one corner, and just gonna keep that consistency throughout, so it appears like the light is coming from one direction, not the band, but actually just the direction of the light, which way it's coming, right? And holding my hand steady, limiting the movement of my hand, is giving me more airbrush control. You have brush control, you have airbrush control too, and just takes time. And I'm learning how to use it on a different airbrush, because I'm learning how to use that on right there. Red Brown from STYNYLREZ primers. I love painting with the color primers, really does help. Going for that dirt, and just, you know, willy-nilly, because I'll tell you, when it comes to dirt kind of like moves and gets all over everything a little bit. So, you know, it kind of spread out. So I'm not really masking anything to go through this dirt. Again, if I've actually practiced and getting the flagstones and getting the control where the paint is supposed to be, It's just the same control that I'm using with, well, just about everything that I paint, the dirt or anything like that, getting it where I want it to get. Some overspray is fine. Brown number 2 is next. I'm doing a glaze on the edges, and I like brown number 2 from Watercolors. Now you can use scale 75 or any kind of gel-based medium paint and thin it really down, but it really does give it a dusty look towards the end, kind of like just blend some of that in together, and it fades out some of the harsh lines that might have been created from the brown STYNYLREZ primer that I may have left. And I'm really going at it and getting some dirt onto the pillars. It just adds that blue for the gray, and then you have that red brown really tying in. Green STYNYLREZ primer is next. That is the base coat for all of it. And then neutral yellow STYNYLREZ primer is going to be the highlight. And sometimes I do 50-50 mix. Sometimes I go straight to the yellow. But you can play around with that. You can actually see the pale skin for Flesh Eater Quartz. I did a video on that as well. You can check that playlist again for the Flesh Eater Quartz if you want to check out more things and all things that I have for Flesh Eater Quartz. This is going to be one of the last videos that I'm doing for Flesh Eater Quartz. You might see them on a battle report, but not necessarily a painting tutorial. All right, guess what the bone is going to be painted? That's right, you guessed it. It's Bone White from Vallejo Game Air. That's wow, mystery solved. Alrighty, so next up, what we're going to do here is we got to try to get these bone. We got to try to get the fingernails for the Flesh Eater Quartz as well, because I like to airbrush control in that. Afterwards, what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit some of that SERAPHIM sepia, and I'm going to brown up some of the bone colors that I do as well. Just really fun stuff that I'm doing with brown. And you can actually see how I did the brown as well, because I also have another video again in that playlist. Check the playlist, it'll be in the description. It'll be like, check the playlist. I'm going to put the little card up here somewhere, and you're going to check that playlist out. And if you want to see all the things that I do for Flesh Eater Quartz, it's going to be on that playlist right there. Actually starting to think about new projects to do. I'm thinking about revisiting the Space Wolves again, and finishing up the Space Wolves army that I have so far, because I do have some more to go. I do have a lot of Space Marines to paint up, especially Primaris. So I don't know what direction I'm doing that. I don't know if I'm going to have 2 Space Marine armies or 1, or do more Space Wolves or not. I don't know. I haven't decided just yet. All right, time to put a whole bunch of detritus. I want to fill up that coffin that's over there, that great coffin as well. And then, yes, the relaxing bit, painting your rim black to separate you from the world outside of the miniature and the world inside the miniature. Just to separate that right there. I think it looks pretty cool. I think the cemetery base came out really well, and the aesthetics of it came out really well. I was a little bit leery about using a coffin, but since I put all those like ghouls trying to get out of the coffin, I thought it would be kind of cool to do. All right, so really putting a lot of glue onto this because I really, want it to stick. That's an understatement, right? That being said, when I went to take pictures of this towards the end, the actual backdrop fell onto this miniature, and I heard crack, 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 and everything came off the base, and the arms came off, and all the nails, everything that I did here undid. And I just part of me wanted to cry, but then I was like, you know what? I'll just glue it back. And I did, and it came out all right. So I'm not too worried about it. But doing a custom base like this and getting the heights correct was a big accomplishment for me. Really. This is the first time I ever did 4 contact points that were completely done, fabricated and customed base to it. So it's the first time I ever went this far, only because the jutting rocks that came out with the model, I think it looks absolutely big turds coming out of the ground, and it has no aesthetic value whatsoever. So I think of this as so much better. And I put some of the Flesh Eater Quartz heads to customize the cemetery bases. So this way it looks more towards the army that I'm painting, and not like Reaper miniatures, but more like, you know, more like its own kind of GW army. All right, so next up, I'm gonna do some WWS Tufts. Worldwide Scenics as great MDF terrain for fantasy. Actually, I'm starting to look towards that because I don't need terrain right now because I have a lot of terrain. But I love like a really full table of terrain, like a complete village, and you know, like really the ins and the outs and the ups and the downs. And I like options when it comes to terrain, and it's all about being immersed. And I love, like, I have a really custom hand-built gaming table that took me about a year, almost a year, to get done with furniture makers, which are my relatives. And I will have videos on that as well. Athonian Camo Shade is next. You're going to want to paint your tufts, right? Because this way it'll blend into their scenery. Like, you paint everything else onto the model, paint your tufts as well. You can't just stick them on and call them a day, because, you know, it's just not going to blend in. So I like to use shades for that. Inks will work as well, as long as you dye them down. But yeah, definitely work on them tufts. All right, so next up, the Rider. We got to do the Aberrant Ghoul King. Okay, so STYNYLREZ green primer, and then having that pale yellow again for the flesh of the pale Flesh Eater Quartz that I do. And it's going to be thematic of my army. But I have to change it because I already have an Aberrant Ghoul King, so I have to make it look different. And I really want to have variation there. I don't want it to look all samey. So I'm going to do the jutting hair instead of black for the last one that I did. Actually, you got to do it red. I'm going to have that red to black theme, sort of like the wings of the Terrorgheist. And that's what I'm going to go for this model. Just playing with that paint and coming up with new kind of things, you know, changing it up, but keeping thematic within the army. And it's kind of interesting that you have to play this little game of you kind of looking at ways to tie your stuff in. And, you know, it just worked for me. You know, I was really happy the way it turned out. All right, some bone white for the white bits of the model. I do use some brown number 2 to do some leather. I do a glaze of leather onto the loincloth. And then I'm going to paint the jutting out thorns red as well. It's going to be interesting. So it's going to be red into black, and that's going to be the theme of this guy right here. Getting close to the end. I'm feeling the end of the build coming soon. And I'll tell you, I am really happy to be able to finish, and it feels so good to finish the new army for the new year, that project. Now, the Space Wolves has taken me the 3 years to be able to do, and but this one has taken me 5 months, so my speed painting muscle is definitely flexed on this one. All right, so here's the Aberrant Ghoul King. I'm just trying to match them up, and you got to see that the color scheme is completely different, even though it's the same kind of skin tone going on there, but all the accoutrement is completely different. There's the same kind of like pose, but totally different model. It gives a different vibe to it. You know, the red with the black nails and everything else. I really like that there is variation within the army. All right, always trying to do that. Alrighty, so let's go on to painting these little necklace. That's right. I'm going to use some P3 leather, but you can use any brown leather you want. Like, it doesn't really even matter. You can use black or anything like that. And just going to paint the little rope that's around, so this way I can actually fit it onto the Aberrant Ghoul King. And then I'm going to actually place the Aberrant Ghoul King on top of the Terrorgheist to have that Aberrant Ghoul King on Terrorgheist model stats that I'm looking for right there. Although with the AOS community, I guess you could have put them on the side or whatever. It doesn't really matter, but I really wanted to be authentic. What you see is what you get kind of thing. All right, so there it is, holding it on. I'm going to use my skill of one-handing capping glue. Do you have that skill too? Let me know in the description down in the comments down below if you have the one-handed skill. And I give this a job where I'm blowing to the model. that sort of came out odd. All right, so this is pretty much done, and I guess I'll catch you. We'll see the pictures, and I'll catch you on the outro. Peace! There it is, very devastating attack for that Royal Terrorgheist with that aberrant Ghoul King on its back. I am so glad because this marks the end of my challenge for the new year, new army for the new year, and it is completely done. And I am going to do a showcase video next week. If you'd like to support the channel, I do have Amazon affiliate links downstairs. I must tell you that if you click on one of those links and buy one of those items, this channel will get a kickback. All right, so if you want to support the channel, you can do so in that fashion. And if you don't, I'm just glad you came to hang out with me. And the most important thing you can do to spread the word of the channel is to share it with other people. All right, well, if you like this video, like, share, comment, and subscribe, and we'll catch you next time on the Miniatures Paintbrush.